My name is Nita Wiggins, and I'm pleased to be with you today. I'm an author and a journalism trainer located in Paris, France, and I'm reaching from this continent to the United States for today's program on Wakanda and the voice of Black empowerment. We have the editor and two contributors to Black Panther, Tales of Wakanda. It's a pleasure to meet you and to have today's conversation. Talk about empowerment in 2021.
Empowerment in 2021 for me is finally us being able to take control of our destiny and make our own personal dreams come true instead of working for someone else's dream, instead of working for someone else's desires. Being able to say, hey, I want to be a writer. I can now sit down and write a screenplay, a book, a TV show, a play, or whatever it is I want to. To me, that's what empowerment is about for us right now in 2021, being able to make our dreams come true.
And for me, it is being able to make myself the hero in my own stories for the first time in years, where when I first started out writing, that wasn't necessarily the thing because I didn't see myself in these stories. So I didn't put myself in these stories until I reached a point where I had had enough of that. So that's what empowerment meant to me.
Okay, it's the idea of not asking permission, right? It's jumping out there doing it. Thank you. Let's move on to Dr. Glen Powell.
Since this is an international meeting, I'm broadcasting to you all from the British island, or the former British island of Barbados, which is the home of my ancestors. And this is an island country, very small, but it has a African-American or a Afro-Caribbean female prime minister who's doing amazing things, energy independence, putting in solar energy, green energy. I mean, just amazing things, this beautiful paradise that I got to visit with my family. Empowerment to me means exactly this kind of thing, you know, being able to take the bull by the horns and change the narrative. You know, if you're buying fuel from people who can set the prices unilaterally, make your own fuel, make your own power. If you are writing, as we do, then, you know, write your own stories. Never mind who has to publish them. You know, get the stories out there. More and more, we're discovering these independently written and published stories and how good they are.
Whenever I would ask for new stories, no one brought me Octavia Butler. Those librarians weren't people of color, they weren't Black. So makes sense, you know, there's a problem with the system. So my sisters start having kids and they start growing up in love with the same things that I loved, comics and science fiction and Star Wars. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? And pardon my French. I said, I will be damned if they go through the same drought of storytelling that I went through as a kid. There will be at least one face, one book with somebody on it who looks like them and their families that saves the day and goes on adventures, isn't regulated to being the sidekick or the sassy best friend, you know, if we're even allowed in the story. So that's how that happened for me.
Now, Jesse, as far as this dedication, some people say that you should write the dedication at the beginning of the writing process because you might boost your emotional connection to the work. So I'll ask you to read that dedication and then we'll talk about it.
Well, the dedication of the book reads as such. This work is lovingly dedicated to our forever king, Chadwick Boseman. Long may he reign. Now, the reason why the book is dedicated to Chadwick Boseman is because the death of Chadwick Boseman came as we were putting the anthology together. And one of the things that we know is that when any of us today think of T'Challa, it's Chadwick Boseman's face that we see. He actually changed our envisioning of a character that's existed since 1966. So we don't think of the Black Panther now without thinking of Chadwick Boseman. And while this book is not a directly written from the movie book, we exist in a separate universe. It's that Chadwick Boseman inspiration that a lot of us used to come up with our stories. So there is no way this project could have come to fruition without Chadwick Boseman. And when and it's one of the people where you remember where you were when you learned that he died. And when I sat down and thought about it, I was like, you know what? He's our forever king. That there's nothing else that you should say about that. We'll just call him what he is, and we'll move on from there.
So tell me, Glenn, is there something about Chadwick Boseman that's especially important that you'd like to share?
His craftsmanship when it came to acting was second to none. And I include in that second to none the greats like Sidney Poitier and James Earl Jones and Denzel Washington. I mean, he was second to none of them. You know, if you look at Marshall, you look at 42, you look at Get On Up, you look at 21 Bridges. I mean, he spans the spectrum, and he puts on that cloak, that persona of whatever he chooses to act. He leaves nothing on the stage. And that is a quality that is tantamount to stardom in any genre, in any era. And he had it. We did lose him far too soon.
But let me ask Elle, do you have a thought you'd like to share about Chadwick Boseman?
I remember thinking at first that it felt unfair that we had to let go of one of our heroes so soon. But then I was immediately filled with joy and pride at the memory of what he had given us, you know, not just as T'Challa, but as you were saying, in all those other films, you know, Jackie Robinson, and, you know, so it was just, I don't think that I can remember a time before knowing he was out there and depicting our stories in the way that he has. That's just how much of a hold, that's his influence. And I hope that, you know, if I ever get the opportunity to write in that world again, that I do that influence justice. That's what I mostly want with regards to his memory. I just want to do it justice.
One of the things that I love about Black Panther is the reaction that children have to the character, because Glenn, Elle, and I are all geeks from, unfortunately, a few years back. And when we came up, there were no Black Panther movies. There were no Blade movies. There was no Sam Wilson as Captain America. We didn't have heroes that looked like us. What the Black Panther has done is ensured for all time that when our children are growing up, they'll know that they can be heroes. They can be warriors. They don't have to look to a blonde, blue-eyed Spider-Man, Captain America, or Superman and say, that's my hero. They can look toward Nubia. They can look at Sam Wilson. They can look at Luke Cage. And they can say, that's who I want to be this Halloween. I want to be a hero that looks like me. Because of Wakanda, our children can look at themselves and say, I can be a hero. Instead of saying, I got to put on a mask and pretend to be Spider-Man or pretend to be Batman. We are our own heroes now, and that's because of Wakanda.
Thank you for explaining. And visual aid. Black Panther, Tales of Wakanda. It is an engrossing 500-page anthology dealing with the world of Wakanda. My name is Nita Wiggins, and it's been great for me to be a part and to interact with all of you, and to meet you has really been wonderful.